Hi and welcome to Lost Genre Pro Revenge, where OP gets to ruin the life of his abusive stepdad. When I was 15, my mom started dating a man she met on a dating website. I didn't like him the first time I met him, and 2 months later, he moved into the house. About 3 weeks after he moved in, he took my skateboards, self-built half-pipe, ramps, BMX bike, ice hockey gear, and many other things to the dump one day while I was at school. He said he did this because he didn't want all of my crap cluttering his garage. Maybe 2 months later, he punched me in the stomach for the first time because I got up from the dinner table without asking to be excused. From there, it escalated into full-fledged beatdowns for the smallest perceived slight to his authority. One day, he decided to take my extensive Pokemon card collection, even more extensive comic book collection, my Game Boy and PS2 with all the assorted games, and my fantasy and sci-fi book collection, and got rid of all of it because 15-year-old boys should be playing football and baseball, not being a nerd playing with Pokemon cards and reading comics and books. I would like to add that he was a middle school teacher and in his off time refereed and umpired local middle and high school sports games. My mom never intervened and in fact reluctantly accepted when he demanded that she stop giving me lunch money because the little will just spend it on comics and other gay shit. One day, I took maybe $3 and change out of his change jar so that I could buy a slice of pizza and some fruit punch during lunch at school, because I was tired of being hungry. My twin sister was always a bit of an asshole and frequently blackmailed me into doing her chores from a young age. I was fed up and refused to do something, so she told him what I had done. This man actually called the police and pressed a larceny charge against me, and once the police had left, proceeded to beat me senseless. At that point, I ran away. When the cops found me and returned me to my home, I found out that he had been trying to talk my mom into sending me away to military school or something of that nature. I ran away again, and between having run away several times and the larceny charge, I ended up turning 16 in juvenile detention. I spent the next couple years miserable and afraid, frequently contemplating suicide. Once I was out on my own, I didn't speak to my mom for several years. We eventually reconciled, and by that point, they had married. I was a lot bigger than I had been as a young teenager and had gotten into weightlifting, so he no longer acted like he was going to punch me to make me flinch, much less actually hit me, and we basically avoided each other for the most part. My mother found out that she had stage 4 cancer and no longer wanted to waste any of the time she had left with him. So she had a lawyer draft up a separation agreement whereby he would receive a set amount of money upon separation, and he would have 45 days to retrieve his belongings from the house. He had spent his entire inheritance in 6 months and then had to sell his mother's house that he grew up in order to settle his debts shortly after they started dating. And my mother bought the house back from the bank before they married. She allowed him to keep the house and he moved back into his mother's house. My mother passed away about 9 months after their separation, and despite the agreement had been allowing him to come and get his stuff piecemeal. I put an immediate end to that. He was past the deadline to remove his personal effects and they were now legally mine to dispose of as I saw fit. I sold his baseball card collection, around $14,000, and his autographed sports memorabilia, roughly $11,000, and also sold all of his woodworking equipment along with several finished pieces of furniture that he had made, $6,500 I think. I kept his mother engagement ring, platinum band, 3 diamonds, roughly 2 carats, wedding band, his coin collection, I also collect coins, and some tools and other odds and ends. Now comes the real fun. Around a month ago, I finally saw him at the grocery store. As he was leaving, I approached him. I told him I had sold his collections as he was pushing his cart out towards his car. He reacted exactly as I expected. He took a swing at me multiple times. I already had my phone ready to dial 911. Several of these punches missed, and the ones that did connect didn't have much effect because he's nowhere near as strong as he was 20 years ago in his 40s. and I'm no longer a skinny little 15-year-old. He continued to try to punch me as I spoke to the 911 operator, and he was actively ramming his grocery cart into my new Toyota as the police officers pulled into the parking lot. He was arrested for assault, communicating threats, and destruction of property. As a result, he lost his job and pension at the local middle school. And because he had never learned how to save money while married to my somewhat wealthy mother, ended up having to sell his mother's house because he hired an expensive lawyer thinking he could somehow beat the charges. My nephew, who was on the football team, made it well known to his friends that he not only had just been arrested and convicted of assault as well as other charges, but that he had also beat me as a child, causing several parents to call for him to resign from refereeing and umpiring for local sports games. My niece and my girlfriend's much younger sister are enrolled at the middle school where he worked, and say that he was not only universally disliked, but when he came up to the school to get his belongings, he made a big scene and ended up hysterically crying as he was leaving. At least that's what they've heard from the kids who were attending summer school at the time. His son, who he was equally abusive towards as a child, refused to take him in or help him out, so the abusive stepfather ended up having to take a job as a cashier at Walmart so that he could afford the rent on his crappy little trailer in an absolutely awful neighborhood. Even though that Walmart is not the closest Walmart to my house, that is now the only place where I go grocery shopping or to purchase anything that I need. I purposely stand in line longer than I need just so that he can be the one who has the pleasure of ringing up my purchases. The first time I went through his line, he attempted to ring up multiple items more than one time to overcharge me, and when I called him on it, he said that I was mistaken. I asked for a manager and the manager believed him that it was an accident, but he learned that he can't get away with that. The second time, I made sure to be as nice as possible and had to ask for a manager because he was overwhelmingly rude. The people in line behind me backed me up and he got in some trouble for that. Every time I go and step into line, I see him die a little bit inside, and it gives me such satisfaction. Sometimes I'll say that I'm paying with exact change, and as I'm about to hand him the money, I'll say, "Oh, I didn't realize I had rare coin from his collection in my pocket. I guess I'll use my credit card." I just sold his extensive ratcheting wrench set, and so on Monday when he works again, I'm going to go buy my daughter one of their better above ground pools. And as he's ringing it out, tell him I know that daughter is just going to love this pool. It's not like I would have ever used those expensive ratcheting wrenches anyway. Oh man. Oh, well, he definitely deserved this revenge. That abusive stepfather really made this guy's life hell. And now he can stand in front of him unafraid and actually make the other guy feel bad. That's redemption. In any case, it sucks that he had to go through all of that, and he actually came out okay. Most people that live through that abuse don't have the same luck. What do you guys think? Do you think OP is gonna keep making this horrible man's life miserable for as long as he can? Or do you think at some point he's just gonna get over it and move on with his life? Let me know in the comment section. Alright, let's move on to the second and last story. Basically, a lady we'll call Leech, for reasons made clear at the end, spent a year helping her best friend, Psycho, harass my family and I over a custody dispute. Leech wasn't related to the family at all, just a friend with an affinity for causing drama. She would make fake profiles along with Psycho and try to fish information about us out of friends and family. Just some real nasty stuff. Leech would take the online harassment further than Psycho, which never made any sense to me because I never had a personal problem with Leech. We had known each other back in grade school, and we were even casual friends. She used our past history to try to weasel into my friends list, but I already saw that she was helping Psycho slander my name online and didn't buy into her malarkey. She then started copying my display pictures and making them into ugly memes. Any post I made public was instantly captured and mocked on her stepmother's support page. Leech was dating the best friend of Psycho's husband. Her boyfriend had a daughter from a previous relationship, and Leech was a proud and attentive stepmother. Most of her identity revolved around being a stepmother. The page on which she posted the memes she made and posts she stole had been running for a number of years and had nearly 10,000 members. She created it herself. She and Psycho also started a handful of other pages for the sole purpose of harassing and mocking us. A couple I had to have legally removed. Police were involved in everything. That had been going on since before March, and for Christmas that year, my wife's grandmother got each of the great-grandkids a 3DS. To save some money, she went to a pawn shop for some gently used consoles and games. This is where karma had dealt us a sweet hand. Nana had purchased 4 3DS in total. The one my daughter just happened to get had a memory card inside full of photos. Upon a quick scan, I realized the people looked familiar. It was Leech and her boyfriend, over and over, dozens of photos, some a little racy. Why else would I be given this opportunity? Of course I was meant to use them, right? Haha, I immediately get to work, uploading every photo and file and set up a fake email account with bits of her information to make it look like hers. I joined any and all free dating sites I could think of, even downloaded some apps that aren't advertised as dating, but we all know that's how they are used. In short, I plastered her selfies everywhere. I refrained from using the inappropriate ones because I just don't feel right about that. Implied loose morals was as far as I wanted to take it. I answered a couple of messages on each site to make it look more authentic, even sharing more innocent enough selfies to prove I was the real deal. A while ago, I had come across Leech's cell number online. She had shared it in a public comment and I was in the process of screen capping any post she made about my family. I had screen capped that comment too, but hadn't done anything with it. I was just gathering and retaining all the information I could, and my patience was about to pay off. After giving a few guys the number, I didn't bother logging on anymore. That was enough damage, I thought. It would be easy enough for her to prove she had never visited those sites, and they should be able to recognize the photos as being taken with the crappy lens of an early 3DS. But then, the other boot dropped. After a few weeks, maybe a month, I go snooping on Leech's stepmother support page to see if she had anything to say about my antics, but it was quiet. Weird. I check out her profile and find all her past posts have been hidden, and the boyfriend scrubbed of all photos available. When I check out his profile, there's this gigantic rant about unfaithful b****s. Oops. Turns out, Leech had been sleeping with her boyfriend's best friend, the guy Psycho was married to. It had been going on for some time and no one knew anything, not even Psycho. If the boyfriend hadn't confronted her about the random texts she was getting from horny guys, he would never have seen the other texts that were cleverly disguised to hide the affair. Being a self-proclaimed stay-at-home stepmom, he had visitation every other weekend and 2 weeks in the summer. Leech had no interest in holding a job. The boyfriend owned and paid for everything, including her cell phone. When he found out about the affair, he kicked her out of the house and took her phone. He pawned all of it to pay off some of the enormous debt she had put him in. The reason the 3DS was in the pawn shop at all was because he needed some extra cash. It was his 3DS, and he had pawned it for some money for a present for her. He wasn't able to pay it back in time, and the pawn shop owner resold the item. That's why the memory card wasn't wiped or anything. I'd say it was meant to be. Oh, OP, yes, most definitely was meant to be. That was, call it whatever you want, karma, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, but that 3DS with the pictures was meant to get to you, so you could use it like you did and make the most of it. You got them off your back, you helped a guy unload dead weight, and nobody's harassing your family anymore, so good on you, man. Congratulations. Okay, well, that's all we got for this video, so if you really like this video, go ahead and click like, and don't forget to subscribe. I put up new videos every day. And on that note, I'll see you guys on the next video.